This time, my fellow night owls, we're diving into the supernatural. The coin at the crossroads beckons with its eerie mysteries, a cursed coin, Dambala's haunting appearances, and the terrifying sacrifices that Vincent must make just to survive. So settle in with your favorite drink and snacks, get cozy, and prepare for a chilling journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you're ready to take the plunge. The book is called The Coin at the Crossroads. Chapter 1. Whispers in the Fog. The night pressed down thick and stifling as Vincent stumbled down a deserted road that twisted and writhed like a snake's path through the forest. Somewhere close by, he could swear he heard it, a breathy hiss, as though the night itself exhaled something foul and ancient. The mist clung to his skin, damp and chilling, carrying a strange odor, like the musk of something dead that shouldn't be moving. At the crossroads, a glint caught his eye, a coin, old and filthy, half buried in the dirt. It was heavy, warmer than he expected, and marked with strange symbols that looked like tiny claw scratches across its surface. As he stared, the night grew silent, as if the very forest held its breath. A pulse, faint, warm, and alive, thrummed from the coin and shot through his hand. Then he heard it, a sound, or maybe a presence, a voice like silk tearing just behind him. "Vincent," it whispered, twisting and layered, as though spoken by 100 voices from across centuries. Cold sweat broke out across his skin, and he whipped around, only to find emptiness, the kind of emptiness that was too still, too wrong, that crawled inside you and took hold. Clutching the coin in a hand slick with sweat, he backed away, the whispers hissing louder. "You called, Vincent, and I have come." Chapter 2. The First Visit. Vincent's life changed overnight. Money poured in. Piles of cash from forgotten debts, unexpected promotions, and random strangers handing him wads of bills on the street. But it wasn't long before the shadow returned. Late one night, the room filled with an unnatural dampness, and he awoke to the feeling of slithering. He froze, his breath a shallow, shaky whisper. There, draped in the darkness at the end of his bed, was a figure half in shadow, half in horror. A man, or at least what used to be one, with skin stretched too tight over bones, eyes like hollow pits that dripped with something black and viscous. Draped around his shoulders, a massive serpent slithered and coiled, its scales slick and pulsing, almost as though it were alive and rotting all at once. The man's lips stretched into a smile, split and bloodied, exposing jagged teeth that looked more like shards of broken bone than anything meant to chew. "Enjoying the wealth," he crooned, his voice like rancid honey dripping down Vincent's spine. Vincent tried to speak, his throat dry and trembling. Who are you?" The thing smiled wider, flesh stretching until it cracked, leaking dark, thick blood down his neck. "I am Dambala," it whispered, "and you are mine." The serpent around his shoulders lifted its head, hissing with a sound that was almost a laugh. Vincent's body seized with terror as Dambala reached a bony hand toward him. He felt the touch, a cold, searing burn that seemed to sink into his very bones, marking him, binding him. And then, with a blink, the figure was gone, but the serpent's hiss remained, echoing from the darkest corners of the room, minding him. Chapter 3. Blood Payments. It started slowly, the deaths. First, his estranged uncle died, a quiet, withering death alone in his bed. Vincent tried to ignore the coincidence, but there was no ignoring the second loss. His cousin, young and healthy, fell sick with a strange fever. She rotted alive, her skin peeling in sloughing sheets as her family watched, horrified. Vincent saw her once from the corner of a window, and in her dark, sunken eyes, he saw the shadow of something watching, something dark and ancient. Each year that followed, someone close to him fell to some ghastly fate. His sister drowned in her own blood, her screams barely reaching anyone as her throat filled with crimson. His brother's car spun off the road, found days later with his body twisted and broken, limbs bent at impossible angles. On the night of each death, Dambala came, dripping and hollow, his serpent hissing its approval. He would visit Vincent's bedside, leaning close, whispering dark secrets in his ear that lingered in his mind, curdling his thoughts. "More is required, Vincent," Dambala would hiss, his breath smelling of rot and earth. "More blood for more time." Chapter 4. No Escape. Desperate and broken, Vincent tried to escape. He He left the city, fleeing to distant towns, abandoning his wealth. Yet every night, Damballa followed. In hotel rooms, he'd wake to find the figure there, that ghastly smile, each visit feeling more real, the serpent's scales brushing against his skin, leaving behind a slick, foul residue. One night, he tried to throw the coin away. He dug a pit, buried it deep, yet when he returned to his room, he found it waiting on his pillow, glistening and warm. The next night, Damballa appeared again, this time so close he could smell the stench of his rotting flesh, feel the cold, clammy touch of the serpent coiled around his own neck, squeezing, suffocating. "You are bound, Vincent," Damballa sneered, his black eyes hollow, dripping with something vile. "And every breath you take is mine, squeezing, suffocating." Chapter 5: The Final Sacrifice. On the last night, Vincent sat alone in his mansion, his wealth now worthless, his heart a hollow, panicked drum. There was no one left to sacrifice, no one left to trade. His body trembled, muscles seizing with terror as the serpent's hiss filled his ears, louder and louder until he could no longer hear anything else. Damballa appeared, his face twisted into something almost ghoulishly human, yet wrong, skin sloughing off his face, teeth bared like a predator in its final strike. "The last soul, Vincent," he whispered, his voice like bones scraping against stone. "The last soul is you." The serpent lunged, fangs sinking deep into Vincent's chest, and he screamed, his voice shredded, torn raw as his flesh split open, his life's blood spilling out like a dark river. The room grew colder, the walls bending, twisting, until his vision blurred, darkened, and all he could hear was the slow, rhythmic slither of scales. In the end, as his heartbeat faded, Vincent felt himself drawn into the darkness, sinking down, into the crossroads where he had made his first mistake, where his soul would rot and linger. And there, buried in the mud, lay the coin, waiting patiently for the next lost soul. Epilogue. Dear traveler, will you dare to enter the crossroads? The coin at the crossroads awaits those who seek, but beware, Damballa is always watching, and the price is steep. Mark 8:36.